So, when I was young, I was watching TV, and I noticed that there was kids with machine guns. I'm like, how come I don't have a machine gun? These kids have machine guns. I want a machine gun. And I was told that these kids were actually in a war, and they were having machine guns to fight people who were trying to kill them. And I said, why would somebody try to kill them for? And it didn't make any sense. So I really said, well, there's something else going on. I really want to know what's going on. So at this time, I was a young altar boy Catholic. I was the guy who was in charge of ringing the bell. Ding, ding, ding. That was me. And I asked my priest, I said, why are people trying to kill these kids for? And he says, oh, the world's a bad place. I'm like, why is it a bad place? And I don't remember what he said, but I said to myself, I have to fix it. And I went and prayed. I went and put my hands together, sat in a little room by myself, and I prayed. And I said, God, the world's a bad place. If you need me to be an angel, but only if you need me, I will be an angel. But pick somebody else unless you need me. So I'm hedging my bets, right? And when I did this, I felt an electricity hit the top of my head, went down my spine, my tailbone, and out my genitals like this. It's like I had an epileptic fit. And ever since then, I've been in a little different wavelength about trying to figure out how to make the world a better place. So I'm not trying to save the world, because the world will exist without us. I'm trying to make the world a better place to live on. And that's when it started. So ever since then, I've been looking. So even though I'm talking to people, reading books, watching TV, in the back of my mind, I'm trying to figure out what kind of clues are coming to me to make the world a better place. All right? Later on, not too much later on, I went to a summer games. My mother is Mi'kmaq Indian, and we live in Nova Scotia, and the summer games were happening on a place called Chapel Island on the reservation. And I'm there, it's a nice sunny day, no clouds, and I'm watching people do a rain dance around this ring that's been there for thousands of years, the same ring. They do a rain dance. And about an hour into the rain dance, a cloud formed over top of them. Then it spread, and it rained. We all had to run into little houses and into tents, and like everybody's like, oh yeah. I'm like, it freaking rained. Doesn't you get it? It rained. They made it rain. Like nobody cared. Like, what is wrong? This is magic. So for me, this would be the first time I realized magic is a real thing. Not, like, why are we always talking about magic for? It's like, oh, this is a science place. No. Maybe this science can figure out this magic, but I think magic will figure out science eventually. I think magic is more powerful. So later on, I went to a trip with my grandmother and my family. We went to get back to a place I thought was St. Anne's Boat Parade. I'm like, this is great. I love boats. We're going to go to a boat parade. And back then I was weak. I was deficient. I had asthma. I was always sick. And I found out this boat parade wasn't a boat parade. It's so disappointing. It was St. Anne de Beaupré, which is a church in Quebec. And this church is built on a Native American site that talked about the rocks and this site are healing. But I went for the church part. And we went in there, we lit a candle, we looked at the columns and the walls, and there's crutches and wheelchairs and all these things on the walls, and people's boots were strapped to the legs on the walls. So everybody would come in there and they would get cured. So my parents' thing was to take me there to cure my asthma, where I kept dying all the time. So I went in there, they lit a candle, blah, blah. I went home, Never had asthma again. The doctor got me off the medicine I was on for years. Every day I would sit down with my little mask on and breathe this medicine just to stop from dying. After I went to St. Anne's boat parade, I didn't have to use this medicine anymore. It was a strange thing. Again, magic. Magic, if you went there and you lost your crutches, you would think is real. If you went there and lost your wheelchair, you would think is real. But if you never had to go through it, you wouldn't even think about it. So what I'm going to tell you is that magic is real. And as I started getting older, more weird magical things would happen to me. I was on the back of a motorcycle one time, and we heard a bell coming from the motorcycle, which made no sense because there's no bells on a motorcycle. So we stopped, we pulled over, we checked for loose parts, metal things, and found nothing. Got back on the motorcycle, smacked by a car. So whatever the magic part was, it stopped us to align us to being smacked by a car. Pretty crazy. So now I'm in the hospital for 9 months. I could have had a baby. That's so long I was in the hospital. And I was really bored. There's nothing to do in the hospital. I had a little TV set. I would swing in, I could watch Barney Miller. And so I started making up things to make myself not bored. I would challenge myself. I would say things like, how long can I go without sleeping? Which is dangerous in the hospital because they'll pump you full of drugs if they find you not sleeping. Sleep. So I watched TV all night, and the nurse was like, why aren't you asleep? I was like, oh, I slept in the daytime. But I found out that I could stay awake for 7 days. 7 days awake. You start to act like a crazy person. And then I decided I don't want to be awake anymore. So I asked for a sleeping pill to go to sleep. But that's like the first challenge. And I challenged myself, how long can I go before I had to use the bathroom? How long can I go and hold my breath? How long can I go and hold my leg up in the air? Like, whatever. 9 months is a lot of boring time. So I kept challenging everything I can think of to do things I didn't want to do. So I think by doing that would make my will stronger. So it's like a willpower lesson. Later on, when I was home, I had a cast on that went from my chest down to my foot. And I couldn't bend at the waist. So I was stuck on a couch until that healed. Well, I broke my leg again. I was on crutches at my friend's house, and there was a tile floor, and I slipped, fell down, re-broke my leg. I set it myself, went back to the hospital, got the cast, went home. So now I'm home, bored at home. We have 2 channels. The third one's in French. I guess I got to learn French at this point. But anyway, I started to challenge myself again. And this time, I decided to see how long I could go without breathing. Like, that's got to be the biggest challenge, right? You can go 40 days or so without eating. You can go 4 days without drinking, or a couple minutes without breathing. So I figured if I'm going to try something, breathing's the key. So I stopped breathing, and I did it by hyperventilating for 60 big hyperventilating breaths. So I said I filled myself up with air, so now I can just stop breathing. So I did that, sitting there without breathing. I could feel my heartbeat because I'm no longer breathing, so there wasn't a distraction. My heartbeat was going. And then I could feel a vibration that started from my feet. Went up and down, and it would join with my heart. Same beat. And when that happened, it was like my light bulb of my consciousness would turn off. I was in complete darkness. I didn't have a body. I had no body at all. I couldn't move my legs because I didn't have legs. I didn't have arms. And it scared the crap out of me. And I woke up and I was back here again. And I said, well, that was pretty interesting. Let's do it again. So next time I did it, it took longer to get the vibration to mix with my heartbeat. So then I started to slow my heartbeat down. So my heartbeat would be like boom, boom. And I started to run out of breath. It's like it's time to breathe. I said, I don't want to breathe. I'm trying to not breathe. So what if I just breathed enough to stay alive? So I only breathed a little teeny sip of breath. And that breath matched my heartbeat. And my breath in, like little teeny breath, came in, my vibration started happening again. So I have a vibration, a heartbeat, and a breath. 3 different things joined together. And when that happened, it went poof. Everything was white. I didn't have a body still, but I was in a place of like a fog, a really bright fog. And it scared the crap out of me again. And like, and I woke up and I wasn't asleep, but I snapped out of it and I came back. And later on, I'll tell you where that comes from. So later on, I kind of forgot everything. And then these things would happen to me where you would kind of think that we're hallucinating, like you're hallucinating. Like, I was out in the woods, and I was staring at the trees, and the trees would turn into glass. You could see through the trees. If you stared at them long enough, just stared at them, because that's what I was practicing, not moving my eyes, you stared at them long enough, they would disappear. And you could see the animals in the trees. You could see a squirrel running on this tree that didn't exist. Crazy. And I chopped that up as more craziness. So I said, well, that's pretty interesting. Let me try staring at a wall. And I'm staring at a wall, and I'm not getting, nothing's happening. I'm like staring at it for hours, nothing, sweat's coming down my face, nothing's happening. I said, well, maybe I'm not doing it right. So I thought about it. I said, what is it about this thing that's making me do this or not do this? So I thought for a second. Maybe when you stare, your eyes go parallel. So normally our eyes are convergent, right? Because you live in a 3D world. So we always got to focus our eyes on something. But when you unfocus your eyes, you're actually looking into a different reality. So what I did, I got a mirror. Held the mirror up in front of my face, and I stared at the mirror with one eye until I can get to the point where my eye wouldn't try to resist. If you do this, your eye's going to try to resist. I don't know, it doesn't want to look at yourself or something. Then I did it with another eye, and I kept staring until I got to the point where my eye gave up. It took an hour before it gave up. I guess you wear out the muscles that are in there, like fatigue. So then I did it with 2 eyes. And when I first started doing it 2 eyes, I would see 2 eyes with this one, and I would see 2 eyes with this one. So you see 4 eyes. And then I would adjust them so they're looking more directly into my eye. And then you would see 3 eyes. You would see an eye, a nose, an eye, a nose, an eye. Because you have 1 nose, 2 eyes, you'll see 2 noses. So then I looked at the middle eye. And the middle eye was kind of like overlapping. You could see like 2 eyes shifting. And I shifted my eyes until I can get them to perfectly overlap like this. So you got 1 eye, 2 eye, and this is my 3rd eye, right? So in my 3rd eye, I had 4, and I made 3. And then my 3rd eye. And when I did that, well, first when you start doing this, you'll see a bunch of faces. You'll see demons and angels, you'll see beautiful you, ugly you. Don't worry about that. Look past that. So when I did it, I kept ignoring all these little faces. And eventually I got to the point where the eyes completely overlapped. And I would have an inner canthus on one side and an inner canthus on the other side. And as that happened, everything went black. My brain turned off, but I didn't move. I kept staring. And when I kept staring, there was another version of me on the other side what I was looking at. Exactly like me, but golden, shiny gold. Scared the crap out of me. And I stopped. Like, who is that? And I did again. And this time, I adjusted my eyes so that I didn't have any inner canthus. I had outer canthus on either side of this thing. So if you do this, if you understand where, if you have an inner canthus and an outer canthus, you have one eye, and your brain is turned off the other eye. Right? You understand? So you got 4 eyes, and if one eye shows up as a whole eye, then there's a missing eye someplace. So I kind of figured that out. And the second time I did it, I went, and everything went completely white, like before when I was doing my breathing thing. And I stared at it, I kept staring, and then the same thing happened again. A golden version of myself appeared on the other side. I'm like, this is pretty trippy. And I tried to teach people this, and they weren't interested. Hopefully you guys will be interested. But that's one of the stages I went through. And it's because I had the will to not give up. Like if you were trying to rescue your whatever, you have a puppy, a sweetheart, a child, if it's between you letting go of this person, dog, animal, and having it die, or having it stay alive because you rescued it, the more you don't give up, the more chances of you rescuing the thing. Right? So it's like you become a hero. So, and I realized this is like a spiritual journey I was taking. A magical spiritual journey. And then I was laying in bed. Out of the blue, my mind created this thing outside of my body that I can move around with my mind. And I was messing with it. I was touching myself and going up my arm and down my leg, and I could feel it. It was real, it was tangible. I take it off, didn't feel it, touched my leg, felt it. And so what else can I do with this thing? So I started to spin it like this. Yeah, okay, that's fun. Then I kept spinning it, and I kept spinning it, and I kept going as far as I can with it. And I go back, and I created like a little whirlpool in the ether. Like the things that we think are things are in. Like we have air, made up molecules, atoms. What are those things in? So I was able to move the thing that was in those, the things were in. And when I did that, it opened up a portal into a different reality. And it scared the crap out of me. So I said, well, that was interesting. And I did it again. And the thing about what I teach is that you can replicate it. If I tell you how to do it exactly as I say how to do it, you can do it. Everybody can do it. As long as it's done exactly how I did it. Because it's replicatable. We took 18 people through a wormhole one time to another dimension. Think about that. If 18 people can do it, it's real. If one person does it, not so much real. But the more people that can do it, it's more real. So then I started discovering, well, the same time, I guess, discovering martial arts. And martial arts was kind of like things that I really wanted to get into because it did the same thing I was doing. It would make yourself do something difficult just for the point of doing it. You would learn how to do the splits because it's part of the system. You learn how to kick up in the air. You don't need to learn how to do that, but you did in this system. It was difficult. And the more difficult it was, the more you separated yourself from regular people who didn't do these kind of things. So you ended up realizing there's different types of people. people who love to challenge themselves, to find ways to make themselves stronger. Then there's everybody else who kind of just live life. If you are a gamer, you understand the difference between the hero's journey or the person you're playing in NPCs, non-player characters. You go into a shop, you say, hi, you say, you must get the goblet of Everborn. It's okay, but that's all he says. You ask him the same thing. Doesn't matter what you type in, he's going to say the same thing. That's a non-player character. So for this system, you have to be more of somebody who is in control of their life, or wants to be in control of their life. Not just this life, because this life is a hologram, and you learn that it's a hologram because as you start to expand your awareness, you start to see it. It first shows up as a wall directly in front of you that comes up from inside. So think of this. I have the exact same thing on one side, or close to exact, as the other side. It's a mirror image. Right? So if I go halfway, 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 and keep going halfway, don't like lean, but go halfway, 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 I will never find the center because it's always halfway. So even half of a tenth of a millimeter is still going to be half. So it's infinity. So I have infinity living in the middle. And when I get my eyes going to infinity, my eyes see to infinity. So when I open up the space, I'm opening up a space of infinity, that because I do it right from the center, it opens up to another reality past this hologram. So it's a hologram, then there's another hologram, and there's 7 holograms all together. Just like when you take a tesseract, where you have these cubes inside of cubes and you stretch them out into 3D reality, it looks like a 3D cross. All these 7 layers of reality. And what you do, you start going up these levels. And this is from, you'll see it in pretty much every culture. You'll see the cube. You'll see people circling the cube, or you'll see people with cubes on their foreheads. You'll see lodges based on the cube, even Native American lodges. You realize that there is something that happened before this time, where people knew this thing. Like we even go back, for instance, if you go back into the ancient Chinese, the Chinese will say, that's what the ancients did. Native Americans, that's what the ancients did. I'm like, who are these ancients? Why can't we be an ancient? I'm like, if they could do it back then, living then, there's no reason why we can't do it now. There's no reason. So that was my new thing, to figure out what the ancients knew, how to do it. So every breath I took, every waking moment, even while I was living the normal life, in my mind, I'm looking for clues to what the ancients did. I'd even watch a movie and I'd see clues from the movie. I'd see people talking. But so I was 2 people. I was the face in this reality, and I was like behind the scenes trying to work things out. And then the further I got into martial arts, I realized must have been what the martial arts came from. Because the martial arts would talk about magical stuff at a higher level. At a lower level, you don't do any magical stuff. And one time, they were talking about Tai Chi, where a person would show green flames that came off his body. And if you didn't know what he was talking about, you would just write off as crazy talk. If you don't understand something crazy, it's just crazy. But if you've done it, it's not crazy. I did it. But my flames that came off my body were blue. I don't know what that means, but they're blue. And I'm like, what the heck? And I'm tapping them up. And I had little scabs on my neck and shoulders from where they came up. And they would just peel them off. I'm like, that's pretty crazy. So, another time, this is just stuff that happened. Some stuff I made happen by kind of divination, where I just do things without knowing why. kind of got taken by it. And other things would happen by not doing anything at all. One time I was lying in, a lot of things happened lying in my bed for some reason. I was lying in my bed and I felt a click, like a bubble popping in my heart. And then this thing showed up right there out of my view. It was right at the edge. It looked like a fuzzy heart, peach thing. And the wall opened up and there was a window in the wall. So I had my room, TV, dresser, a hole. And on the other side of this hole was tropical. Palm trees, twilight, a breeze going through, and it scared the crap out of me. I was like, what is that? And I thought to myself, should I go take a look? And I said, no. And I said, well, what can I do with it? And I said, don't do anything. So I didn't do anything, I just watched it. And it's like, I'm looking at this thing. And this little thing, fuzzy heart thing, sent out a wave. Like, a wave, and it just covered like a patch on my wall. I'm like, wow, nobody's gonna believe that. But they did, because they know me. And all these things happen all the time. And you can do it too. It's nothing special. You have to be able to be in this space, right? If you're an evil person who does evil stuff, you're in a space where evil people are going to do evil stuff to you, right? If you're a drug kingpin, other drug kingpins are going to try to take your drug kingpin thing. But if you're in a space where you're a good person, where you're helping other people become good people, if you're a strong person helping other people become strong people, that's your space. And people don't really want to be in that space if they're bad people. So you start meeting less bad people, you start meeting more good people, right? So the whole system is about trying to separate yourself from the force of destruction and enter into another realm of reality while you're in this reality. And I have a video explaining how the whole reality works. So there's the contraction, then there's expansion, then there's layers in between. And we're trying to get into the layer towards expansion and less towards contraction. Evil, good. Childlike, adult-like. So when you're born into a reality where you can't do anything, right? You need things. You are in contraction. Things come to you to keep you alive. And then eventually you get to the point where you keep bringing stuff in, but then you give things to other people. Then you enter into another realm. You're more into the creating force, the helping force. And if you keep going along this realm, you'll get to the point where you don't need help anymore, where you can just give to people. This is where the goal is. And I think to do this is important now because we're running out of wilderness. We're running out of nature. We're getting to the point, if we don't change our behavior from taking and start getting into the realm of giving, then the whole world will collapse. Where we don't, or not the whole world, but most of the world will collapse where we don't have enough resources for people. So right now we got fires, we've got swarms of locusts, floods, we have billions of people who need to be fed. So if you start doing these things, one of the things you start to do is to eat less. We don't need 3 meals a day to survive. We don't need junk food. We don't need to meet to have dinner, because that takes up about resources. So when you start eating less, you start having more money. When you start having more money, then you make yourself stronger, And then you can start helping other people. So this is the first step. Plus you start getting more healthy. And if you're healthy, you need less help, because you don't need anybody else to keep you healthy. It's just like becoming an adult. So I think most of the world, people are still at the adolescent stage where we have to rely on somebody else. People rely on the government. They want the government to give you health care instead of just being healthy, right? The government can't give you health care. If you don't get sick, you don't need health care. But if you keep eating bad things and not exercising and thinking negatively all the time, your body will say, well, it's not working. And we'll get diabetes, we'll get disease, and then you'll need health care. But if you skip out the part where you damage yourself, you don't need as much health. Like if we take apart all the things that people do to themselves that damage themselves over years, you don't need that part of medicine anymore. It's like taking the middleman out. So for instance, I did my internship in medical school at a place in downtown Los Angeles where I was in the acute rehab department. And I met people and I say, what's up? And they'll say, oh, this is my, they'll come in like they died the day before and they brought them back to life. They had a heart attack or they had a stroke or something happened the day before and now they're in the rehab department. They're alive. And they'll say, I guess that was my wake-up call and now they're gonna start being healthy. I'm like, no, that was your curtain call. You were done. This is your second chance. This is your encore performance. You've been having a wake-up call for 30 years. You've been hitting snooze for 30 years. So if we can get to the part where we don't hit the snooze button anymore, and we start taking care of nature, we stop poisoning nature, we find evil people that poison nature and stop them. We stop people who poison food. Like people make food, but they take the nutrients out to sell you the nutrients. Like that's evil. You know people are going to eat this stuff and not going to have nutrients, and then you sell them the nutrients. But some of them don't even know about this part. So it's really a different shift in paradigm, and we can all do it together. We can all make ourselves stronger for the sole purpose of making other people stronger. And when you start doing that, when more people start doing it, the world will become a greater place where you don't have polluted rivers everywhere, where you don't have crime. Remember, this is the law. Make yourself stronger for the sole purpose of making other people stronger was the law of my tribe for thousands of years. My tribe's been in the same place for 15,000 years, and that was always the law. One law. If you have one law that says make yourself stronger for the sole purpose of making other people stronger, you don't need any other laws. You hear people saying, oh, well, the Indians, they didn't have any laws. They didn't have laws, they had one law. If you make yourself stronger for the sole purpose of making others stronger, you don't need laws against thievery. You don't need laws against murder. You don't need laws against cheating people. You don't need any law that you have, you don't need, because the one law covers all the laws. So everybody starts following this one law, and they start doing things where you think out the consequence of your actions ahead 7 generations. Say, should I pour this poison into this river? Oh no, right? No. It's poison in the river. So you're going to kill fish that people, or you make it poisonous or cancerous. You don't do it. And you realize that maybe making temporary money in the fake hologram reality isn't really worth it for the greater part of your soul. If you wanted to get out of this hologram reality, it's like being in a bunch of little eggs, like a chicken and an egg, this hologram reality. And if you're a bad seed, this next stage doesn't want you. You know, put you back in and you start again. But if you're able to, this is why. When you go up to the next reality, you'll see this on a 33rd degree. When you go up to the next reality, you can create things with your mind. You have magical abilities. You can fly, you can walk on water, whatever. You can do it. And if you don't have control of your mind, it's not a place anybody wants you to be. If you have magical ability, but you're an evil person, nobody wants you up there. This is from a time when everybody was on the same team. Nowadays, we live in a time where everybody's on opposite teams. They're fighting each other instead of fighting for a goal past this reality. What this does, this enters you into a different reality. This system is called the way of heaven. The way of heaven is about making yourself stronger for the sole purpose of making others stronger so that you can get on the same wave as the creating force or the creator. So there's three types of forces. There's the force of destruction, there's a force of maintenance, and there's a force of creation. And of the three forces, the creator force is the strongest force, because without something created, you cannot destroy it. You can't maintain it if it was never created. So of those three forces, the creating force is the strongest. Inside your body, for instance, if you have a destructive force, it will bring destruction to other things around it. A cancer or a sickness, it will bring destruction. If you have a creative force, it's a force that helps other things. Say you have a cell that's following the creative force. It will create proteins that other cells can use to build themselves up. So we have three forces. I'm just trying to teach you how to get onto the force of the creator. And to do this, again, make yourself stronger for the sole purpose of making others stronger. That's the creative force. And there's 4 different versions of these forces. That's the first one. The second one is make yourself weaker to help other people, which is a destructive and creative force. You're destroying yourself, but you're helping other people. Then there's make yourself stronger by making other people weaker. That's a force of creation of yourself, but by doing that, you're using the destructive force. And then there's the last one where you make yourself weaker and you make others weaker, which is total destruction force. So, for example, a person who made lots of money, who gave his money to help other people make lots of money to have a good life, that would be you make yourself stronger. A person who, like a sacrifice person who sacrificed their life for the children, which is still noble, that's the second force. The third force, where you make yourself stronger and you take people and abuse them, that's a force on the negative side. That's the destructive force. And the worst one is like suicide, where you kill yourself, which is make yourself weaker, and then everybody else gets horrible in pain because you killed yourself. They get weaker. That's the worst force. So you want to stay away from the worst force and work your way up to the highest force. And the first stage of this is to make yourself stronger. And by doing that, you start looking at your life into the future. What would you feel like you are going to be like when you're 90 years old? If you do things that are bad now, you won't make it to 90. If you start doing things that are good for yourself now, you have more chance of making it to 90. Like there's 90-year-old bodybuilders that look great. But also you have 90-year-old people who are lying in their deathbed, all shriveled up. They didn't make themselves stronger. This is a religion, so you got to take it religiously. In the next part, so that's a physical, mental, and then you have to make yourself mentally stronger. So you do exercises to make your mind stronger, you make your body stronger, and also you make your spirit stronger in the sense that you make it more tangible, make it more of a thing. Right now our spirits are kind of soft and gooey. So on this level, is your first thing you do, you start to do exercises that will increase your body awareness. So you join your mind and your body together. You increase the nerve contraction, the muscle contraction and the nerve firing, you expand that. And then you also will learn to make another version of yourself inside of yourself. You make an immortal version of yourself called the solar body. So this is our lunar body. We make a solar body that you can take and then take it to different levels of reality. So the first stage, you lie on your back, you create your double, and you go within yourself into the darkness, and you open up a window. When you open up, it's either round or square or rectangle, but it's an actual window. In the solar body you've created, you can use that body and go through the window into another reality. In the first stage of this reality, you are a medicine person. You're an adventurer, you're a traveler, but your goal is to meet people and heal them. That's the goal of this level. The second level, you become more of a warrior, then you become a scholar, but you play these avatars up to 7 different levels. When you get to 7 different levels, you realize that these things that you created on different levels can come back within you, inside of you. They can fill the empty space of you and join you and become something else. So the power of creation is creating something out of something else. So if I take water and a seed and a soil, put them together, you give it a chance to create a plant. But you need these other things to do it with. You need nutrition. So part of your deal is you have to start being more into nutrition. What is good for your body, what is bad for your body. And you stop taking things that are bad for your body. You have to understand that there's a force of destruction within you that's trying to kill you, that's trying to put you back into the earth from which you came. Your physical body came from the earth. You've either eaten plants that have eaten the earth, or you've eaten animals that have eaten plants that have eaten the earth, or you've eaten animals that have eaten animals that have eaten animals that have eaten plants that have eaten the earth, but it's from the earth. So you are a polarity walking above the earth, and the earth wants you back. If you're not going to get out, you're going back in. And when you start to go to different levels of reality, you'll have a different perception of this reality. You won't take like stealing from somebody as an important goal, because that will pull you out of make yourself stronger for the sole purpose of making other people stronger, because you're not doing that anymore. You're making yourself stronger by making them weaker. So it's going to be a challenge. So everybody who does this thing, if you're an evil person, you probably don't want to do it right away until we get more people involved and they make you stronger and stop you from being evil. But it's like the first time people went across the Atlantic Ocean. Not everybody could do it. You had to know how to sail a ship, be a crew member. You have to live that lifestyle. Nobody could else, you couldn't just grab your boat and go across the Atlantic Ocean. So this system is for people who are already good people who want to make themselves stronger and help other people. If you're a good person who makes yourself weaker to help other people, that's great, but we can also help you get stronger. So everybody gets lifted up. I'm sure there's people that aren't going to want to do it because it sounds crazy. It's crazy until you do it, basically. So the first level, make yourself stronger, make others stronger, and if you can do that, then you can start going to different realities. Because if you go to a different reality and you're an evil person, it won't let you up. This first level is called the realm of the evil sorcerers, not because it's evil, but because it won't let you up. It's like if you're a 5-year-old who wants to drive a car, and your parents won't let you drive the car. To you as a 5-year-old, your parents are pretty mean. Everybody else can drive a car, why not you? But they have a different perspective than you. That would be dangerous for you to drive a car. The same thing, when you go up and you're not ready to go up, you will get pushed back down again. So eventually when you go up, you leave your spirit body, your electromagnetic body there. And it lives there. And your dreams will be about there. And eventually, if you do the next level, which is the way of the warrior, where you start to be a warrior against the part of you that wants to go back into the earth, and you fight your own negative instincts, and you fight everything that makes you want to be a bad person or makes you destructive, if you can beat that, then this part you sent up will start to come down to join with you. You'll start seeing it in the back of your mind as a glowing orb, this big around. And eventually it will come in and right, like this is you, it will come right into your back and go into where your heart is. And it'll be like a spirit attaching to your soul. And it will look like an ankh. It's an ankh shape with the legs and arms coming up. Crazy, but doable. When I talk about crazy, it's only crazy because you haven't done it. If you can do something that nobody else can do and you're the only one that knows about it, it sounds crazy until you do it. Just like this. And when you first start doing this stuff, it's difficult. So you have to have a little bit of tenacity. You can't give up. It's easy to give up because we live in the realm of destruction. If I take this light, 1 second I could smash this light. Easy. If I wanted to create this light, I couldn't do it. And it takes days for people to create this light. But instantly you can destroy it. Sandcastles, you can break a sandcastle in a second. It takes you all day to make a sandcastle. Because this is our starting point. Our starting point is the realm of destruction. We live in it. As we get older, we start to get destroyed. And as you make yourself stronger, when you get older, you aren't affected by destruction as much. So there's a way where you go in the middle, where you follow the path of the Creator, and things that don't normally destroy you don't affect you anymore. So when you start getting older, you can still do flexible things. You can still touch your toes, you can do the splits. Your hair doesn't go gray until much later. Your skin stays soft. That's part of the physical, but you can't do it as something you want to do because you want to stay young. You have to do it because you want to make yourself stronger for the sole purpose of making other people stronger. If you do it to make yourself young, that's not the point. There's no reason for you to be here. We live in a force that wants you to evolve out of this darkness. And out of this darkness is a whole different realm above us. And all I'm doing is telling you how to do it. So it takes a certain type of person to do this. You have to be a good person who wants to make a change in the world. So there's two types of people. People who came here on this realm for something to do, right? For pleasure, for pain, for joy, for fun. And there's the type of person who came here to do something, who wanted to make a difference. If you want to make a difference, this is for you. All right, let me tell you the story about when I was an altar boy. And I was trying to figure things out. And I had an assignment to pick a chapter in the Bible and write about it. And part of the thing was, Jesus would say, if you believe in me, you can go to heaven. And then they said, well, what does that mean? Well, it means that you believe he's the Trinity, you believe he rose from the dead. Okay, that's what I couldn't find it in the Bible. The Bible doesn't say that's what believe means. But what it does say, Jesus says, if you truly believe in me, you will do the things that I have done, and greater, greater. I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Remember, I'm just a little kid. And I'm like, and I say this to my Sunday school teacher. He's like, yeah, but it says you will. Not right now, but later. Like when? Sometime in the future. He's like, what do you mean? Don't worry about it. You will. I'm like, what do I want to do now? He's like, no, can't. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. But if you do this system and you're able to create your own immortal solar body inside your body, and you go to other levels of reality, you will do things that Jesus has done and greater. I know that sounds very blasphemic, but it's not, because he says so you can. So you can get mad at me for saying such a thing, but you're just getting mad at the person who said it the first time. So that's part of my story. I hope you enjoyed it.